this right here. Okay. Upside down. Okay. Rock, classical, pop, metal, rap, jazz. So many different genres of music, so many different styles. And each variety of music comes from a different part of the world, a different culture. And yet all of them fall into one category. They are all music. But what makes them similar? Please. There we go. All right. When I first started this project, this is the question I asked myself. I wanted to know what connected each genre of music. But when I really thought about it, this is a relatively easy question to answer. You just have to think about it for a little bit. Well, of course, all genres of music contain this element. Music also contains that component. I already knew the basic essentials for music. I knew what they had in common. But what I really wanted to know, what really intrigued me, is what makes... Nope, too far. What the heck? What? Okay, what makes each genre different? All genres are derived from the same basis, the same foundation. They share the same musical elements. So how can each genre end up so different from one another? If we use the answer to the first question here, if we analyze the similarities, if we analyze the elements they all share, then there's a pretty good chance we will notice the differences between them as well. All right. Beat. The first thing you likely notice in a song. The beat, as you probably know, is used to count time in music. It can be fast or it can be slow. Either way, it provides the foundation for the song and sets the tone for the music, making the song more upbeat or making the song more mellow. While beat can have this drastic effect on a song, it's not always easy to hear the beat itself. We can take a look at some examples. If we pick out virtually any rock or pop song, in this case a song by AC/DC, it's pretty easy to judge the beat just by listening to the drums. Alright. It's pretty easy to recognize the beat in something like this, right? However, the beat is a little harder to pinpoint in some other genres. It's still there regardless, just not as easy to hear. Let's take a look at an example. Let's listen to the theme of a franchise I'm sure you have all probably heard of, especially you, Jake. As you can see, it's a little more difficult, but not impossible to recognize the beat in this type of music. Now, comparing the two genres, we can say 100% without a doubt that they both contain a beat. That's their similarity. But we can also see that the beat is a lot more subtle in one of them, which shows one of the major differences, one of the major effects beat can have one of the major differences, one of the major effects beat can have on a song depending on the genre and how it's utilized. Come on. There we go. Pitch and harmony. Such simple things, but so essential to music. A pitch is just a single note. Harmony is just a blend of notes. And yet both of them, when used properly, can have such an impact on the feeling we as the audience get when listening to a song. Just flash back to the last time a song excited you. Now flash back to the last time a song motivated you. Flash back to the last time a song gave you the chills. Music, no matter the genre, can express and inflict so many different emotions depending on how pitch and harmony are utilized. Let's take another look at some examples from different genres and see the methods used to create two different emotions, happiness and sadness. First up, we have a section from Vivaldi's Four Seasons, which falls into the classical category. Its specific combination of pitches and harmony played by different instruments causes a relatively happy emotion, right? Now we have a piece from a hip-hop song. Let's listen to it and notice the difference. The unique pitches played by the piano and a few other instruments leave a much more sad feeling in this specific song. Now, both of these genres are capable of expressing both emotions, happiness and sadness, but we can still see a few differences in the way these genres tend to generate these feelings. In comparison, the hip-hop song is a lot more simple, a lot more straightforward when it comes to harmony. For the most part, we can only hear the piano, singing, and drums, which isn't very many voices or instruments. Whereas the classical song had many, many different instruments playing in unison to create its harmony. Thank you. Melody. Okay. Melody is probably one of the most important, Melody is probably one of the most important, if not the most important component in music, because it's what gives a song its individuality. It makes it stand out from other pieces of music. A melody, if you don't know, is a succession or series of harmonic notes. The things I played in my introduction are a few examples. They're just a sequence of notes that sound well with one another. But each genre, in most cases, produces a completely unique and different melody. Classical music, for example, uses advanced methods to produce some of the most impressive and complex melodies in music. Whereas most other genres, like rock and pop, contain melodies obtained from hours upon hours of experimenting with different notes and different chords until the right sound is discovered. What the heck? There we go. Lastly, there's texture. Texture is what really gives music its fullness. Essentially, texture, if you don't know, is just the number of instruments in a piece of music and also how they coordinate with each other. There's different types of textures you can have, but in most cases, there's just multiple versions of the same melody played by different instruments at the same time. So you could have a guitar playing one melody while, say, a bass guitar or a piano play a similar one at the same time, and that would create depth in the music, add on layers, and make the song much more interesting to listen to. Texture can be especially effective when it changes partway through a song. Instruments can be added or taken away, which really grabs the listener's attention. Once again, we can take a look at an example. This falls under the rock category. It's a song by Van Halen, which I've been really into lately. Yeah. In this example, we can hear the different instruments play similar but not identical melodies. We could also hear a change in the amount of instruments. It started off with just the piano and some cymbals, and it ended with an addition of drums and guitar. This process occurs in most other genres as well. Typically, a song builds up and adds instruments throughout the duration of the song, and those instruments are performed in perfect coordination with one another. From the few of the many components of music I've talked about today, we can not only see the similarities between the genres of music that are out there, but the differences as well. All forms of music, regardless of the style, are derived from the same foundation. They share the same elements: beat, pitch, harmony, melody, and texture. That's what connects them, but the means in which each genre uses those elements sets each one apart from the next. Thank you. Yippee.